So we're here at PAX Australia
Yes.
with Ify Nwadiwe.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's going good. The weather's really nice. It's a little like gloomier than I thought it would be because everyone's like, it's going to be summer out there, but actually it's spring out here, right? I don't, so someone gave me the wrong information. And so, I'm going to get a PAX coat and then I'll be good. But beyond that, yeah, I'm having a great time.
I thought about writing an intro about like, who are you, everything, but you've just done everything on the internet. You've been with everyone, Rooster Teeth, Achievement Hunter,
Yes.
Smosh, Dropout. I guess, how would you introduce yourself in terms of what you do?
Oh man, someone recently, I just got new agents, and someone was like, "Hey, I started working in the industry because you called yourself a professional nerd," and I was like, "That sounds cool." I didn't know that was a possibility. I want to work in this industry, and I think that's how I would all encompass it. But something that I think is unsurprising to most people is my baseline has just been comedy. Like I started doing improv in high school. There was an organization called Comedy Sports. And they had a high school league, which was like, Whose Line Is It Anyway? If you ever seen it, but like short form improv, little games. And like, of course, if it was at your school, a home game, you would win because it's all audience votes. And, from there, everything kind of started folding into itself because like when I started I grew up in LA, but I was kind of living outside of it. So when I moved to like do like improv at UCB and stand up and start doing like the comedy, dream chase proper, I kind of tried to like focus solely on that. And, there are some comedians who are like really good at that, but I think my ADHD brain never lets me do one thing at a time. And through like odd jobs, I started working with Socialtron Live, and they were like, "Oh, do you think you can play video games with a personality?" And I'd sent like a 30-minute video of playing Daisy in character. And they said, not that, like, like an elevated version. I was like, "Oh, you mean just like hosting?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so that kind of started the kind of merging of like my comedy and nerdiness right there, because that led to Geek and Sundry, which then led to Nerdist, which led to me helping launch BuzzFeed multiplayer. Then that was Rooster Teeth, Smosh, Dropout, and Dropout. It's so fun because there's just two groups of the fans, right? Where people just know Dropout and they're like, "Oh, I remember when you came to Dropout." And then there's the people who know College Humor and was like, "I remember when you were in those early sketches," because it was just a bunch of people at UCB and improv people, and they were just doing sketches. So you would always get like an email where it's like, "Can you do the background?" Which then led to TV writing and video game writing. And, I'm working on some like, narrative books. I think that there's some more stories that I want to expand on. And I don't think it's, lavish, but I think that's the fun thing of being a storyteller and playing this is like my dream has always been to kind of write the prologue for Marcus St. Vincent, because he got to be so badass and powerful. And I love a prequel like that, where like you see the like ultimate form of someone and you're like, "Oh, how did they get there?" Especially when it's not in the story.
And we had one person on the subreddit ask, "You've been with all these companies. Who's got the best snacks?"
Ooh, oh man. Okay. So it's so funny because, Dropout snacks are pretty good. Specifically because Dropout, the way it works is it's a bunch of like rolling productions, right? So, and every time you come into a production, they ask the snacks you want. So Dropout will always have the snacks that I want, sure. But I think the best one are just, all of any company that you see me come that's been a flash in the pan, meaning that they got a bunch of like investor money, they made a bunch of stuff, and then the investors were surprised it didn't make $1 billion overnight and it blew up. Those ones had the best snacks because they just had it stocked up. It's like that tech startup money.
All right, so we got a couple questions here, some shiny questions,
of course.
in the style of Actually. So if people don't know, I'm going to read out a paragraph of text, and you're going to try and find the inconsistency in that, and hopefully that'll segue into the next section of questions, if I've done it right. So Actually is a game show on Dropout, originally hosted by Mike Trapp, but from Season 9 onwards, Ify Nwadiwe took over hosting duties. Ify, who according to Actually.info has 10 first place finishes in 11 appearances, was the most winning contestant at the time.
Ooh, okay. So it was 10 first place finishes, 11 appearances. I think that number's off. That is what's incorrect because there's I believe I lost one and then I hosted one. And so I don't know what the exact number is, but I think that's what's off.
You go right. It was 9 first place finishes.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I think I remember too because I was like, damn, I wish I would have ended on 10 before I hopped over. But yeah, 9 was there, and then Brennan tied, and now we're officially tied. So who knows what's going to happen on future seasons?
And yeah, I guess how was that going from being a contestant and doing really well and having fun on the show to now you're hosting, and it's sort of a change in position?
Oh man, I was super excited to do it. I loved being a contestant. It was one of my favorite things. But it just was, the timing of everything was so poetic because like I just had the episode with Brennan that I won. And so it was kind of like the story, like it would just be just this slugfest of then Brennan would overtake. And then it was fun to kind of like leave after that and be like, okay, I've done enough. Let's host. But also as someone who like is passionate about it, because, there's like being passionate about winning, and then there's being passionate about the show itself. And, Dropout, before I took over as host, we had meetings where we were trying to find a show for me to host. And even in that meeting, I was like, I'm trying to find a show that's not actually, because every version of the show I pitch is actually, because I just find it so interesting and fun as someone who's like so nerdy, and the show allows you to inject your nerdiness in it. It was fun to do. I think seeing the way me and Brian's like nerdiness kind of makes the show the same but different, kind of a different like swath of questions, and leaning into that, I think makes me so excited for the future, because we just have so much more that we want to do. And I do want to like make sure we're tapping in on the OG stuff where we're talking about the books. And so that's why we have a writing team, because I want to, really capture the essence of not just the stuff that me and Brian are nerdy about, but the whole spectrum.
And you talked about Brennan catching up to you.
Yes.
with 9 wins.
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
Oh man, it's so funny. It was like funny. It's fun. I love the story. I love the back and forth. And, it like the rivalry is fun to play up, but it is just exciting to see just another nerd that's just as passionate as you.
And is there any favorite moments that you can think of from your time with actually?
I feel like if I'm thinking back on when I was competing, I think that doing the kind of like dad episode was really fun, because everyone saw me do the game in like a specific nerdy light, and like tapping into that and talking about being a dad was a treat. As far as hosting goes, it's all stuff I can't talk about because it's in the next season. I think this next season is going to be a treat for the OG fans. It's going to be a treat for new fans. And I think we're doing something that people have kind of been asking for. And yeah, I'm excited to see everyone react to that.
That tiptoeing around what you can and can't
say. Exactly. Because I want to leave enough hints to get the excitement going, but not enough to where, because I will say the Dropout audience is so good at like picking up the clues and figuring it out. I mean, even like the ARG stuff for Game Changer, I was like, oh, y'all are quick with it. So I almost am like, yeah, if I say too much, y'all will figure it out.
Give them an inch and they'll take a mile.
Yes.
So also as a part of Dropout with Dimension 20, and also 100 other live play RPGs, you've had a bunch of experience with that. How do you enjoy that experience of sitting down at a table, playing a tabletop RPG, and filming it for people?
Oh, it's super fun. I think the question that is often asked is, what are the differences we see in a home game versus one that we shoot for consumption and to be viewed? And it's a performance, and I think that sometimes that's why there's some like, I feel like confusion sometimes, because I feel like in a home game, you're still of the mind that you're still playing a game, right? So you're always going to make the optimal decision and probably not always going to pick what you feel like your character will do. There are some people who do play that way, but I think there's a lot of people who try and like balance the two. Metagaming enough to like win because it's a game, especially like on a game night, we still have that like, competitive edge. And then there's the storytelling where it's the complete opposite, where it's like, oh, when you're playing as a performance, you're going to make the best performance choices. You're going to, take, and there's this, and with improv too, these are all people that we've improvised with, whenever I see like the kind of conversation about like, oh, taking the spotlight or hogging and all this, I'm like, that is something I think that only really comes from the audience side, because as a performer, it's like, it is this like just genuine like give and take. And, look, there's editing, and like if there was anything that on a performance level, we were like, oh, we feel like this is too much on that. Because we overshoot a lot of the, Dimension 20s. Like, it's pretty straightforward, and it's but like, we can cut things down for time because we don't want to have everyone just there forever. We can like trim. So it's like, if someone's like having this moment, it is an agreement between all the performers, the editors, the director, that like, this is the moment in the storytelling for that to happen. And I think, at a home game, everyone kind of wants to share a piece of the pie, like at a home game, especially if I'm DMing a game, you're never going to have a like full like, okay, there's a character in my home game called Deadwood, and like I really wanted to go into their backstory, but there's no way at a table that you're going to be like, okay, we're only going to hear a lot from them. So the difference is you probably go to their hometown, and then you have that exchange where the party is also learning so much about that person, and then everyone's getting to participate a good amount. But I think if you're doing a episode where it's like a backstory of a character, and because of the nature of D&D, every other character is played by your DM, it is going to seem like, okay, this one character is kind of doing the most in this episode, and then the other players are kind of taking a step back, but it's not like, there's never like a shove back. It's almost always them stepping back. So many performers are so anxious, they do not want the spotlight. They want to like say their thing and be like, all right, we're back. And they're like, no, take up space. Let's tell the story. Let's paint this tapestry, and let's like showcase and give it more depth.
And on the subreddit, somebody's favorite moment from D20 was Escape from Bloodkeep, where you ended up stabbing yourself so that you could teleport and get out of there. Do you have a favorite moment from your time on D20?
Oh, man. I feel like, that was a very strong first for a long time. I remember when I got Fog of War and Brendan told me the ability that it did. And I was like, I knew from the moment I had that ability that I wanted to do that at some point, where that was the loophole. Like, it's on contact, so I can hit myself and then I can teleport, and I might need to use that in a pinch, but I also didn't want to just burn it for no reason. There was a point where like I almost was thinking about using it when the airship was falling apart, but I was like, there's nowhere to go. And then when we had that final moment, I almost forgot about using it, but then I saw that, relic kind of falling down, and I was like, oh, I can like do that and do that. And when I was able to make that happen, I was like super, super stoked. But beyond that, I think it was, another one that everyone always talks about, which is like Wendell and Vic talking, to each other in the reflection. And that was, purely out of the character I know I made with Wendell. It was so fun seeing everyone like kind of in these, like pop into this role and like figure it out. But I was like, the story I'm telling with Wendell, which was just a, exaggerated version of me at that age. I did live in the Lake Elsinore. I was going to community college and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And, I was like, that version of me would, in this situation, would be paralyzed. I would not be able to just wing it because I'm just not self-assured. And I'm a big fan of Fast and Furious, and it's like a freaking cartoon now. And, Dom, or Vin Diesel's character in the movies, is just always able to just always has a way out, just stuff that defies the laws of physics, everything. And I was like, yeah, a character like that would figure this out and be able to break the tape and be able to talk to the person who is embodying him so that he can still get what he wants. It just was like a mental math thing that, like, in a quick second was like, oh, it's this move. But it was because all of the truths that I accepted before we even started the game.
All right, well, we'll go into our next shiny question. First appearing in Smosh's Try Not to Laugh number 111, there is a universe that contains a black Shane, a black Tommy, and a white Ify, who loves to eat everyone's ass and just finished watching One Punch Man. This universe reappears in Try Not to Laugh 145, adding a twink Shane and a buff Trevor to the canon.
Oh man. I think it was One Piece, right? Was it One Piece, not One Punch? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I remember that because I was like, to me, the funniest part of the joke is that it's a long ass anime. So the fact that he was like, I just finished watching, I was like, this man's insane. You got to get out of there.
And you're jacked.
Yes.
Like, I knew you were big, and then we're walking down the aisle, and I'm like,
oh yeah.
You could probably crush my skull if you wanted to.
But I would never.
No. But you're also a massive nerd.
Yes.
And I think, how has it been to balance those two things where we look 20 years back, they're pretty diametrically opposed.
Yes.
You know, you're jock, you're nerd, and now it sort of is coming together and people are embracing it a bit more. So how's that been?
Oh man, I know that's so fun and interesting because it is true, right? Where like I think we're in this era now where like there's just so many shades of nerd that it was like, oh man, like yeah, of course, and it's like no, it felt like people were like, well, you can't be one without the other. And then so I feel like you had people who hit that side of themselves, and now like everyone can just let their nerd flag fly. But I think the funniest thing for me is the whole reason that I am as like muscular that I am is because I'm a nerd. Like, because what happened was I started lifting weights and I was just doing like the kind of regular rigmarole. You know, I think that especially anyone who like, you know, did weightlifting in high school, you leave high school and you just kind of do the same thing. And you're like, I really don't know, you know, I'm lifting weights, but I feel like I'm not getting any progress. And then my cousin at the time, who was also a nerd, was like starting to get like really like muscular and jacked. And I was like, what's the secret? Because I'm going in and that's not happening. He was like, well, first you need a plan. You know, you can't just go in there and just do the same thing every time. You're really just doing maintenance at that point. You're really just keeping yourself. It's like you always should be lifting a little more. He's like, I've been doing strong lifts, which is like a powerlifting program, 5x5, just two workout A, workout B, squats, deadlift, overhead press, squats, bench press, bent over rows. Real simple, meat and potatoes, and you go up just a half 5 pounds each workout, you know, and you see so much growth. And then what he said that immediately altered my brain chemistry and changed everything. He was like, yeah, when I lift more weights, it feels like I leveled up. And he was like, I just treat it like that. And the moment it like got gamified in my brain, it was like, okay, yeah, it's easy peasy. Like I'm just grinding, you know, it's like I'm not working out. I'm grinding stats. I'm getting my strength stat up. And there was like a really cool site at the time that, you know, I'm gonna check if it's still around. And if it is, I'm gonna like try and really get it going again. Cause I loved it. It was called Fitocracy, which is a weird name for like what it actually was, but you would put in your workouts and you would get experience points, and it would showcase your experience points. You can challenge people, and you can at the end of it, you know, there were like achievements and there were badges. There were like, you know, guilds and clubs that you can add. And then there were like group activities you can do. And I got into that. And then that kind of just truly like making it video games has really helped me do most of the things I had a hard time getting hooked on.
You mentioned your writing earlier and video games as well, to bring it back through. You wrote for Twisted Metal.
Yes.
How did you get into that, I guess?
Oh, I mean, that was through my comedy path. So I started taking classes at UCB, and through that, I started doing improv class, then the sketch class, and I was really getting involved. I was like working on my own pilot because I kind of knew, okay, this is what I have to do. These are the steps. And it was just like a combination of like, good things where one of the people who was on one of my improv teams started writing for Workaholics. They were like, oh, if it would be good in this role. And then I auditioned for it. And that's when I got Dr. Heels good. And then my buddy had a pilot that I was going to host, and it got really close. And in the end, I got beat out by someone, but they liked me so much. They're like, we still want you in it. Can you do the sketch? And then so that happened before the Workaholics thing. So then when I did Workaholics, he was like, hey, I'm one of the producers on Workaholics. I also produced that pilot you did. I think you're very funny. Do you write? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, I want you to submit for At Midnight. And then I did a submission. It was a blind read, got an interview. They liked me. And then I got, invited to write. And so then after that, it was just kind of all history, where I started doing a lot of like unscripted, kind of late night. Then it turned into narrative, which was like Sandeep Parik's, the Wizard School Dropout. Then I worked on something with Paul Scheer. And then I did Tick-Tone for Adult Swim, did Grand Crew for NBC, and then Twisted Metal came around. I was like, I got to get in there. And so met, did well, worked on the first season. Then I went to go do the second season of Grand Crew, and then it was a good time. It was like, so really it was just part of the same path, and the nerdy stuff is just a bonus.
Is that something, I guess, your dad's from Nigeria, you went through this comedy track, I guess. Have your family been super accepting into the track you've been through?
Oh, now that I'm successul, Now that I'm successful, it's revisionist history. They've always supported it. But it was definitely a thing where, when I first, started doing it, I was now looking back and being diagnosed, was like, oh, I just had ADHD. So like school was very hard for me unless I was like very passionate. If there was classes that I like really were interested in, which was unsurprisingly like English and all the like kind of like writing and history. But if I wasn't, I would be checked out. And then also all the other stuff where I just wasn't retaining the information. So by the time I got to college, I was going to community college, and the moment I didn't have to do anything, because, when you're in high school, you have to, your parents see your grades. Now you're an adult. I just kind of was goofing off a bunch. And my dad gives me this full-time job at the LA County Register Recorder. And that was also the same time I started doing like improv in like outside of the city in Orange County. And then once I got hooked back on like, oh, this is what I want to do, acting, I like hyper focus. So I had to like quit this full-time job that I was at for like, I think 3-4 years at the time. And my dad was like, what are you doing? Like, I got you this, stable job because you were screwing around, and now you're going to do these goofs. And I was like, yo, trust me. And he didn't, but now he's like, I remember I told you, always chase your dreams. I was like, no, you said run away from them.
And we had one last question from the subreddit. Were Captain Kirk's actions related to the Kobayashi Maru justified, or did he miss a valuable lesson? If you were in his shoes with the knowledge... Oh, we're out of... Sorry, we can't talk Star Trek.
Oh, man. I know. That is one of my holes, too, is like I really need to get, even though like, one of my partners is super into Star Trek, specifically in The Next Generation and Data. So next time we meet, I'll have an answer, maybe.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for taking time to talk.
Of course. It was good talking with you.
Cheers.
All right.